What's up guys, Americano back here with another video. Everybody says what has been outperforming Bitcoin will continue to outperform, but is that really the case? Let me walk you through a few examples of why this logic doesn't hold up the way you think it does, and how you should approach the market in its current state to find winners, or at least what's going to make you money for the remainder of the cycle. I'm pretty passionate about this one. I have some strong opinions against what would be considered the norm on this topic, so let's get into the video. Alright guys, 1,000 apologies. My screen for whatever reason seems like it's lagging, so hopefully it doesn't show up like that once I edit. And I'm a day late on filming these videos, so I feel like I owe you guys something. I'll debate on that, but there might be something coming. But anyways, let's get into the topic of the video. Okay, so how does this start out? You guys have seen me say a million times, I don't want to hear, we've talked about alt season, we've labeled it alt season, right, way back in April when, I kind of suspected we could be finding a bottom in the altcoin market. But you guys have heard me say, like, I don't want to hear anything about alt season, I don't want to hear anything about targets getting hit until Total 2 breaks out. And for those of you that have coins that haven't pumped, or things that have lagged behind, and you're asking me, like, should I rotate to look at Sui, it's doing so well, or Hype is doing so well, like, should I rotate into one of these? And I've consistently told you guys, like, the answer is no. So in this video, we'll kind of dive into why that's true. But I do want to frame it up of, like, hey, we're not talking about alt season, we're not talking about, altcoins catching a majority of the performance as a collective whole until Total 2 breaks out. I'm looking at my camera and it looks so laggy, so I really hope it doesn't show up that way. We're going to leave this in the video, but I'm going to be pissed if it's lagging. It's catching up. Anywho, let's continue. So up here we have, well, let me frame it like this. So we're going to go through some of the leaders last cycle. Coins that you would say would have led the market, and the way I'm defining this is coins that saw significant pumps, coins that ran to all-time highs, coins that did significantly well before Total 2 broke out. That's going to indicate some sort of outperformance against Bitcoin early on in the cycle, which is what people are talking about now with, like, what has been outperforming will continue to outperform. And this video is not as polemic as you guys think. It's much more nuanced. We'll get into it, but make sure you watch to the end of the video before you kind of, like, get your suspicions or you want to poke holes in what I'm talking about here. Just watch for, like, why I say this, because the why is almost a little bit more important. But anyways, we have an example up here of what I would consider to be a leader from previous cycle. So this is obviously all these, we're going to look at the 21 cycle, and we have Litecoin here going from, sorry, I moved my other screen, $22 to $252, about 1,000% move before Total 2 broke out. And then what do we see from here? Typically everybody would say, hey, it's alt season, it's this, make sure you're in the stuff that's been outperforming. And then you come on here and you look at what type of percent move it had left. 96%. Not great. Okay, Cardano last cycle, 3,400% move, 3,300% move before Total 2 broke out. Clear outperformer, even though under the all-time high, still showing significant strength, still at or near the all-time high as we got the push on Total 2. If you're looking at your chopstick in the altcoin market, you're probably looking at something like Cardano, but boom, what are you left with? 319% move. Even Ethereum, the big dog, the big boy, right? Once Total 2 broke out, okay, it did 1,800% from the bottom, and once Total 2 actually got a breakout, 180%. So these are the things I'm kind of talking about when I'm like, hey, you have to get into the lagging coins. And let me show you an example of this actually paying off for me last cycle. God, I feel like I'm lagging so bad. Hopefully it doesn't show up that way. But, looking at it from last cycle, 400% move. And this is the Pico top here, like the Pico top of this move. But I'm being fair, I'm being honest, right? But 400%, really I'm looking at the structure here, right? Still within this kind of accumulation structure. I would have considered Ethereum Classic some sort of lagging coin last cycle. And what did it do from here to the peak? It did 1,000%. So you want to tell me that things outperform and things, whatever's been outperforming is going to continue to outperform. Those are the same type of people that say this cycle is different. So I'm confused what you want me to do. You want me to look at past data or do you not? right? Or do you just want to say shit that you hear other shitty influencers talk about online without any context, without any sort of frame of reference, without actually explaining what goes behind it? So we're trying to like take a stab at that overall thesis. Ultimately, I don't think it really matters. Buy what you want. It's alt season. Things are going to do well. And guess what? They pop off randomly. But we're going to kind of wrap this all up. But sneak peek, buy what you want. Anyways, I'm just pushing back against that, typical just regurgitated spew that you hear of like, make sure it's been outperforming because it'll continue to outperform the rest of the cycle. Let's look at one that did like terrible last cycle, right? IOTA, okay? Didn't make a new high. Didn't even clear this like bottom, stab that it took at some sort of demand, right? Back into a supply level before going into its accumulation. But again, let's look at it like this. You guys are going to be upset. You guys are going to be mad at me. I'm cherry picking just a little bit, right? This was kind of a fat candle we had into the total soup breakout. So I want to pretend that we front ran this by a week. That's all I want to do. That's all I want to do to show you guys an example. I had this one on the top of my head. I didn't feel like digging super deep. But, right, just give me that 1 week. Give me that one weekly candle close to the left, and the assumption will hold true. But anyways, from around the time of a total soup breakout, right, 390% move, and even something that ended up being super mega dead. So why do I say like it's best to buy these lagging coins? Because ultimately it's random, right? Yes, there was stuff that outperformed that continued to outperform. Dogecoin last cycle, I bought Dogecoin after total soup broke out. It was already up a shit ton of percentage points and it ran a shit ton more, right? So yeah, it holds true, but at the same time, like I showed with Litecoin, like I showed with Cardano, like I showed with Ethereum, like I showed with other coins, everything that outperforms is going to continue to outperform, and then 20% of them only do it. Well, how does that really help you? It doesn't really hold true. At the same time, yeah, these lagging coins that I'm showing here, not every one of them did an Ethereum Classic. And I'm not saying it's better in that sense. It's guaranteeing 10x returns on stuff that's lagging. But I'm saying take a look and take a stab at this, because if you're going to get a 20% chance of something popping off, well, then it might be better to pick something that's lagging for the sense of, hey, even if we don't get a massive pump from it, even if IOTA doesn't go to all-time highs in 10x, right, we can still see 400% pump from here. As for something like Ethereum, might be 150. As for something like Cardano, might be a little bit less, and things like that. And this is going to tie into another video that I have this week. I'm not going to allude to it here, but it's titled Top 5 Altcoins I Would Not Buy Right Now. Stuff I just wouldn't touch. And this is how we have to look at these videos, right? Anytime I post a video, I look at it through the frame of mind of like, whoever is watching this is going to put $50,000 into whatever crypto I'm talking about, or into whatever coin that I'm alluding to, or whatever structure I'm showing. They're going to put $50,000 of fresh money in the second I post the video. So if I'm looking at it through that frame of mind, we'll just grab IOTA here for shits and giggles. Let's just do a breakdown as if IOTA was going to be a lagging coin that we were getting into this cycle. So what I would do, I'd have my kind of, fib extension targets based on previous cycles. I'm being a little bit, naive in the sense of, obviously it didn't make highs past cycles, and I'm not getting into the specifics of like how I actually do my coin breakdowns. This is all general, right? This is all general, right? But if you've seen my other videos and you've seen the fib extensions and you're fucking around or watch this video too, and you're like, oh, he said lagging coins and he showed IOTA, right? And you're doing some sort of breakdown like this, let me show you why it's still not the worst thing. Let's say you say in your head, oh, it's possible that IOTA could pump 3,000, 4,000, 2,000%, and it's a lagging coin, just like Americana said. I'm going to put $50,000 of fresh money into it right now. And then it ends up not playing out, right? It ends up not working out for you. Doesn't make a new all-time high. It doesn't, actually, let's go one step further. We're not even going to get into retracement levels here. Let's just look at, past cycle, kind of what it did, right? It had this like final pump before, holy lag, Jesus. Had this final pump before kind of exiting and finding its bottom in the bear market. We'll be conservative and we can assume, that's like getting back to like that level in there. So let's say total 2 breaks out and we get in, you know, somewhere here, right? This is still 300 to 400% move. I said I wasn't going to allude to it, but I kind of feel the need to now, right? Let's pull up something like Solana, which, spoiler, is on my list of coins I would not be touching with fresh capital this cycle. So let's pull up something like Solana. What did I say? This was 326%, right? So if you got into Solana on the total 2 breakout, I'm just going to take it from current prices. It's likely going to be above, but you know, again, we want to be conservative. To its highest fib extension target, which is not even a sell level for me. I'm scaling out in here. I sold some in here already, is 164%. So even an absolute shitter doing absolutely shitty things gives you more protection and more upside, right? More protection to the downside because it's at its, you know, kind of bear market local bottoms, right? Which I'm not saying this can't, you know, go ahead and take it out next cycle or something like that. Right, but more protection in the near term of like, hey, we're entering alt season. It's not likely we take out these bottoms. And even if we just get a retracement, not even a retracement, just a return back to a level of supply, which we did in past cycles, if you're allocating fresh money right now, you would outperform Solana, potentially. So that's what I'm saying. And at the same time, you still have the same 20% chance of you know, those outperformers that we saw. You know, maybe IOTA goes to this like bigger retracement level and it coincides with like a 1.618 and it's 1100% pump. So you still have a 20% chance of, I'm just generalizing, but 20% chance of catching one of those massive lagging coins that does something great, just like Ethereum Classic last cycle. But at the same time, if it performs, you know, underperforms in the sense of it doesn't make a new all-time high, this thing got so beat up and it lagged so much that even a return back to just some sort of supply level is going to be that 300 to 400% pump compared to something like Solana from here doing 164 to a price target I'm not even anticipating. So it's you know, I say that to say like ultimately you have the same percentage chance. So do what you want to do. But for me, I always account for what could go wrong, right? What could go wrong buying Solana right here as well? It tops at the 2.618, $383, right? I've already scaled out, let's see, 30, 50. I've already scaled out 80% of my Solana that I bought in here when it hits this level. And if you're putting in fresh capital, this is the worst case for you. It only pumps 63%, while something like IOTA does 400 in its worst case. So I say that to say like it's just a way of protecting yourself that's actually safer than most people think. Not any worse in the sense of what your maximum performance on a coin can do when it pertains to fresh capital, and gives you protection to the downside. So when we talk about one true alt season, when we talk about total 2 breaking out, it doesn't make sense to do. I can't make these claims anywhere in here. I can't talk about, you know, advocating to sell your Solana to buy IOTA in here. But when total 2 is literally a shrimp stick away from breaking out, there's a case to be made. There's a case to be made. Liquidity is going to flow into the altcoin market. Everything's going to pump as high as it could possibly pump this cycle. IOTA is going to have the best shot of doing whatever it's going to do. Be clear, I'm not recommending publicly IOTA. It's just what we had up for the example. But so use math, right? What has the percentage to actually, or the like space to actually get a percentage move? And again, this is talking about fresh capital added to the market. If you're holding Solana from, you know, back in here, then what I'm saying that like it doesn't apply to you. You don't need to go rotating out of your Solana. People make that mistake, just way too many rotations. There's only a couple clear times in the market when you should ever be rotating, right? But if you're holding Solana from down here, you're a Solana holder, you were in lower, you're around in 2023, you're around in 2024, this video doesn't necessarily pertain to you because this 386% that you're giving up, you're swapping to go into something like IOTA that at worst is going to do also 386%, 350, whatever it was. So that necessarily doesn't make sense. I'm strictly talking about new capital, and you guys need to know, I've never come out and said it, but if you're watching this video now, congrats. But all of my videos, I say it with the lens of like, whoever watches this is going to go out and take action on whatever I'm saying right now. So I'm always speaking in the sense of fresh capital. I have the video coming out, that I said I've alluded to, of top 5 altcoins I won't buy right now. Sui, Hype, Maple, or Syrup, whatever you want to call it. XRP, Solana, Ethereum. Top coins I'm not touching. Doesn't mean I don't own those? No. Doesn't mean I don't think they're good? No. Doesn't mean I don't think they won't pump? No. Doesn't mean any of that. I'm just always looking at it through the lens of anybody could see these videos, anybody going through whatever. Somebody might be on their last dollar and be like, I gotta just get some sort of money out of the market. And they might see something and I might say something, and I just have to look out for you guys. I have to protect you guys. I have to protect myself. That's the best way to do it. And I think it makes for good content that you can actually take action on, right? And you can actually like understand in the current moment with that frame of mind. But anyways, this was a long ass video for me. I'm going to try to like do some of these longer ones on topics that maybe I'm a little bit more passionate about, but this one's one I've been sitting on for a while. And now with Total 2 breaking out, I think it's the time to show it. So I'm going to hop back as like, this way as a big screen, and I'm going to say goodbye to you guys and wrap this up. So make sure you watch till the end of the video. All right, guys, that is it for this one. Quick recap before you click away. Quick recap, right? What I'm saying here, I don't buy in to what has outperformed will continue to outperform. Do I think one strategy is better than the other? No. What does it boil down to is protecting myself. What does it boil down to is protecting my money from downside, right? With the understanding that, hey, it doesn't need to make an all-time high for me to outperform other major altcoins and other projects that have been outperforming. It doesn't need to make an all-time high from the point of a Total 2 breakout, right? I hope that made sense to you guys. If you guys have questions about the thought process, it's not as straightforward, but and again, I'm not saying any one side is better than the other, but if they're all going to have a 20% chance, I might as well protect myself for if and when it goes wrong. That's the ultimate point of this video. If you guys want to argue with me, drop them in the comments. We'll set up a boxing match, get that Jake Paul money. But anyways, kind of on one today, but love you guys. Also, 1,000 subscribers. Damn. Should I make a whole video? I don't know. What should I get for 1,000 subscribers, right? To me, it's not the ultimate goal, right? At 1 million subscribers, we do something crazy. At 1,000 subscribers, little pat on the back. Good job, buddy. Putting in the work. But that's what matters, is putting in the work. Applies to crypto too. You put in the work, you're in it long enough, you can't not succeed, right? In life, in anything. But that's kind of it. A rant. Appreciate you guys sticking around. See you on the next one.